Good evening. Let's call this meeting to order. If you would join us for the flag salute, please. All right. Let the minutes show that all board members are present. Do we have a motion for the adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well. Consent agenda. All of the following items, those items of a routine nature normally approved at board meetings, will be approved by one vote unless any board member desires to have a separate vote on any or all of these items. The consent agenda consists of the discussion, consideration, and action on the following items, A through Q.
Move for approval.
Second.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Dr. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well. All right, information reports, USPA, UCTA.
President Reyes, Dr. Federline, members of the board, OEA hosted a legislative conference this past weekend, and we had 3 members who attended. 5 of our members served on various OEA state committees, and they met last Saturday. We also had members attend another OEA civication. This is working to foster a positive relationship with legislators before the session begins.
Thank you. Next is 100% one student at a time, Mrs. Boyer. Oh, no, we good?
I'm not sure where we are with technology. We're just having some issues. Dr. Federline, do you have it?
Oh, I've got it up here, yes.
Well, then I will.
Do we want to give it a second? Dart or Mr. Morris? Let's see what he says.
It's okay. We can make it work.
Okay, I'm sorry.
One computer at a time.
That's right.
We'll go ahead and start, and then we'll get caught up.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, good evening, Dr. Federline, President Reyes, members of the board. Thank you for an opportunity to share with you today. When initially presented with the opportunity, I took some pause because typically when you come present like this, you are coming with data charts and with graphs and with an ability to show growth, right? And in this position right now, we're not there yet. So what I've determined and what I think is best right now is to share some stories with you about the work that we've been doing at the high school. First of all, let me introduce myself. As of this year, I am the Assistant Principal of Student Engagement at the high school. I took on the role, Gart, you can go ahead. No, that's not where we are. Looks like we're a little out of order. That's okay. I'm gonna maybe punt on that. We'll just punt on that. So I think the board has the information. So on that second slide, when I initially took on the role or was offered the position, I initially had a bit of pause because I knew precisely right what I was walking into. I had spent years at the high school before and was very aware that chronic absenteeism was quite a mountain to overcome. So on day one, when I walked back into the high school, we were looking at a district chronic absenteeism rate of 27%, a high school chronic absenteeism rate of 41%, and we were sitting with 268 non-graduates from the class of 2025. It's just where we were, and I walked back in and thought, okay, what do I do with this, right? We're at ground zero. There wasn't a playbook at the time, but we knew we needed to get started. So I asked for 2 things when I came back. I said, I need a partner, and I don't mean they were going to allow me to hire a secretary. I said, I need a lot more than a secretary. I need a partner. I need someone who can go out into the community with me and communicate with our families. And I can't do that alone because I don't speak the language that many of our families speak. And to truly make a difference and make an impact, I needed that ability. So I asked for a partner, and by divine intervention was handed someone who has a passion for the work we are doing, greater than most. And the other thing I asked for was an opportunity to be given a lot of flexibility and a lot of time. As my thought in the moment was with the numbers that we had, all I knew to do was go find them, right? So we started going out into the community. And you'll see, I think I'm on the third slide. Knocking on doors. Yeah, there we go. Knocking on doors, tracking students down with Norma at my side. So our initial goal and our initial project were these non-graduates, right? We were early in the school year. We were at August, and there was a push to get them across the finish line. But what we found as we started going out is these families were seeking a lot of connection, right? So when I would go out and meet with these families, we were connecting. We were sitting at tables and helping students find motivation and creating opportunities and pathways, right? And with each conversation, the other opportunity that arose is I was learning a great deal from these families. I was starting to better understand the foundational issue. I was learning from their stories. And we were actually, we were building trust. And what that turned into, we had parents making daily phone calls to us. Hey, did my kiddo log in today? How close are they to graduation? They started showing up in our office and working. So during the school day, we would have these non-grads coming back and knocking things out one at a time. Gart, you can go to the next slide if it's working. And it's hard. This is hard to see, but these are, as we started working with families, we started getting calls from parents, and we started getting these thank you notes from families. And some of the coolest things is every time a student would get across the finish line, my secretary, Norma, would run in and say, can I call their mom, right? And we would celebrate with their mom over the phone. Some of them cried with their mom over the phone. So we slowly chipped away at the list. We were all hands on deck at this time. This wasn't a solo gig. I mean, everyone at the high school was working and pushing. And I will say that clearly we lost a few along the way, right? In our push for 100, we lost a few. But what I can say confidently is that each one of them was offered an opportunity, right? And I think I don't want it to be lost that while we lost a few, almost 1,100 students from Union High School earned a diploma this year, which is a significant number. So as we move forward in the school year, Gart, you can go ahead. I think there's one in between, but that's okay. It says shifting focus. No, that's okay. So as we move forward in the school year, clearly it became necessary to shift our focus back to the students in the building, right? We were pushing those non-grads through, but we also have 3,400 plus students in our building. And the goal in that moment was to start to look at the numbers and start to look at a reality check of where are we with these kiddos, right? And what can we do in the immediate to try to ensure that come May of 26, right, there are fewer kids sitting on that non-grad list. So as I started looking at numbers, and I'm gonna read these to you, and these numbers aren't great, but this is where we are, right? This is where we sit today. So right now at the high school, we have 469 students sitting with a 20% or above chronic absenteeism rate. That's 14%. And we have 1,062 students at 10%, which is 31% of our student body. And to date, we have approximately 30 students who have been dropped for non-attendance or our withdrawals. And that number is fluid because we lose them to non-attendance, they re-enroll. We lose them to non-attendance, they maybe show up somewhere else. So that number bounces around. But again, I found myself thinking, hey, what do I do with this, right? We're in the process of learning so we can put large-scale systemic change in place, but we're not there yet. So I look at the numbers and I go, how can I make a difference? And again, the answer came back to, and one at a time. We're going to make a difference one at a time. So The very first thing that Norma and I did is we started doing weekly home visits again for our students. Any student who's been dropped for non-attendance, we go find them at their door. We're tracking them down at their house. Sorry, I've lost myself a little bit on the slides. So non-attendance is when we do that. So we're finding a lot of kiddos, and I will say sadly when we come to those parents, some of them say, "Oh, hi, I'm Mrs. Boyer. I'm here regarding so and so." Oh, well, yes, they're at school. No, ma'am, they're not. Right? And so we're making those connections because I will tell you, as many correspondences as we send out and letters and phone calls, there is still a gap in communication. And some of that is cultural. No, oh, Mom, no, I wasn't, that call's wrong. Right? I was in class today. And so as we're able to sit on their porch and have a real conversation about where we are, we start making a plan. What is it going to take for you to re-enroll? Right? And once you re-enroll, what is it going to take for you, right, to stay? And so as we started having these conversations, because parents are now aware, they started coming back. And they would sit down in my office with their parents and we would make a plan. Some of them we started talking about alt-ed. Some of them we had conversations about job out opportunities. And for some of them, they just needed someone to be aware, right? The gig is up, Mom's here. And they just simply needed someone to be aware. But there are often some stories, so I'm going to tell you a brief story. This last week, home visit, 2 high school boys had been dropped for non-attendance. I was relatively aware of the family because there are 2 little ones at Rosa Parks who historically had bad attendance, and Rosa had reached out to me knowing my current role. So go to their house and find Dad at home, and he said, well, the older boys are working. So this country is expensive, and they have to work. And yes, sir, I understand that, but can we have some conversations about perhaps a pathway? So the next day, Mom brought the senior who is credit healthy, who has never failed a class, and should walk across the stage in May, who had dropped out of high school to work. Brought him back, and we started having conversations. Can we make this happen? What does this look like? If we can get to December, right, you're credit healthy, I'm going to make job out happen for you in January. And that kiddo has been in school every day since. But today, the best part is he came running in the office today with a friend. He said, Miss, my friend has to work too. Can you help him? Right? And I said, yeah, buddy, meet me tomorrow morning and we'll help you too. So those are great things. In addition to those non-attendance visits, I've started some focus groups. Because the reality is, much of what's happening, we don't have an answer for right now. But the students, right, they're the ones living it. So I've sat down with a variety of kiddos. I've sat down with our high-performing kids and said, why are you here? What's keeping you in school? Or why do you keep coming back? What do we have? What are we offering you that you want? Right, having those conversations. I'm also pulling groups of kids out of IP. Kids that are in IP for truancy. Kids who are on a long stay in IP. Hey, buddy, why aren't you in school? Right, where are you during the day? Right, do you find graduation important? I'm also meeting with a lot of parents. Right, what do you want for your kiddo? And if you'll, up there somewhere are a list of kind of quotes, and I'm not going to read through all of them, but these are the things I'm hearing back from students, parents, high students, low students, and I'll read a couple of them to you that stand out a lot to me. A student, I feel connected because I chose to be involved in a lot of things. I have an obligation to others. Keeps them in school. I'm very involved because I started in middle school. Getting plugged in is not easy if you wait. Again, a highly involved student. This one's kind of a heartbreaker. I can't even legally have a job. What difference does a diploma make? It's undocumented. And as he had a dream to be an orthodontist. And as he got older, he learned the reality of his future. And now we're having a hard time keeping him in school. Others, a parent, I don't have any control over what they choose to do. My child doesn't want to come to school and there's nothing I can do about it. Student, yes, I want to graduate, but showing up every day really isn't worth it in the end. Trying to just bounce around so you can't see them, since you can't see them. I want to graduate, but I'm not motivated to be here every day. So I will tell you what we're hearing over and over, and what I don't have an answer for yet is parents that say I don't have any ability or control. It makes it really hard for us as a school to supersede that. And students who have every opportunity and every barrier has been removed, but they don't value what we offer. And that is truly a reality of where we are. And so we're taking it back to a ground zero, and what's next? Like how do we shift this? We have a lot of great things in place with some programming and different things. So next steps, solely my opinion, but these are some things I'm throwing out there as potential next steps. First of all, this work can't wait until they walk into the door of the high school. Early intervention is certainly key. These students don't wake up as 10th graders and decide that school isn't important. And I have been blessed with a really unique opportunity, right, to slide down to elementary for a few years. And so I feel like I'm bringing back a perspective that when you are working with 4th graders and 5th graders, I could identify these kids after I had spent the previous 5 years of the high school. And there are 4th and 5th graders that I worked with that I could probably call Tammy and say, hey, what is this looking like for so-and-so, because they were really disengaged, right? We were losing them in 5th grade. And I'm sure we're continuing to lose them. So early intervention, I believe wholeheartedly that a shift back needs to happen. Something else that we're putting in place at the high school, we are implementing child study teams with the intention of focusing on at-risk students. Just a really deep dive and intentional look at child study teams. We have also discussed the impact of closing campus. It's a big one. What impact would it have on truancy? What impact would it have on our chronic absenteeism? I don't know the answer fully, and I know it's a very large undertaking for operations, for child nutrition, the idea of closing our campus. But I also am a strong believer that when you hand students who don't carry self-discipline and don't carry a great deal of family support an opportunity 6 hours a day to walk out of the door, oftentimes they're going to choose to walk out the door because they don't understand, they don't value what we're offering. So that discussion, what does it look like? I'm not sure. Is it feasible? I'm not sure about that either. And lastly, we have many, many pathways, but I am learning that we need additional pathways for our highest risk students. I have sat across the table from many, and I didn't have anything to offer them. Where they were as far as their credits and their truancy to feasibly graduate on time in a traditional school setting wasn't going to happen. And you don't want to look at them and say it's not going to happen. You try to lay out every opportunity, but in my mind, I knew it likely wasn't going to happen because some true additional pathways for our highest risk kiddos is imperative at this time. So I don't have answers, but I have a lot of conversations. Dr. Federline, Dr. Moore, I think there's much to talk about in the near future. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been a conversation I've been super excited to plug into. So a lot of this I'll probably ask
Sure.
outside of this setting, so we're not here all night. One thing I was definitely curious though. I know with some of the specific scenarios you gave, it's for us looking at this, it's really easy to look and go like, man, that is a dynamic situation that I might never experience myself, and I don't necessarily know how to fix. But it's not necessarily a reality of maybe most of the kids. Maybe it's like there's some that it really stands out. So if we could, if there's an underlying theme or archetype that you found where the vast majority, even greater than 50% of the students all have this one thing in common, have you identified anything like that?
So 50% of the students that I'm spending my time working with, I do, and it's not for most of them, the true reality and the common thread is they don't value the education that we're offering. So many of them, so I mentioned one that had the barrier of needing to work, right? But truly what I've been faced with over and over, we have parents who want their kiddos in school. parents who are willing to bring them. They don't need to go to work. They're not babysitting their siblings, which are many of the things that we think about. They truly don't value the process, and they're completely disengaged in the process and don't see it as worth it.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
With that, is there any objective way that we could assess that? And is there a time when we could assess that?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know that there's an objective way to assess it. I think that, we have the data on who the kids are, right? And truly, they're quite honest. If they're in a situation, so I have the unique ability to sit down in front of them and say, hey, I don't do discipline. Like, I'm going to ask you some questions, but I'm not seeking. I'm seeking to understand, right? And they're usually quite honest when that's the scenario. When you're truly seeking to understand, and those consequences, which are necessary but not my job currently, are off the table. But how do you assess it? I don't have an answer for that right now. But I would love to be able to put eyes on it.
The one thing that I got a chance, the blessing and the honor to speak to some of our students that are at risk for not graduating.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, they're all men and they all look like me.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily representative of the entire population,
Mm-hmm.
but you see, in that case, I'm like, man, is this everybody?
Yeah.
So what I thought was interesting, the three things that kind of stood out: mobility, stability, and foresight.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So how many of you went to 3 or more elementary schools?
Right.
How many of you, are coming from one-parent home or things like that? And then as I look at a playground and I see students and everybody's having fun, I'm like, well, they're all checked in. You don't see anyone kind of,
Right.
oh, this kid's standing on the fence, man. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to graduate, right? So everybody's playing kickball. So there's definitely got to be something that we're missing in regards to,
100%.
at what point in time is this kid like, you know what, this isn't for me. And I'm excited to see that you're on the case, because it's just been refreshing to hear how much you've gotten just from digging deep into this. I do
Sure.
appreciate
Well,
that.
I mean, the work is so rewarding. I will tell you that this one-at-a-time approach, it's not going to change the numbers that much, is the reality. When we're looking at percentages, right, there's not that immediate, you drop 10 percentage points, because it is one at a time, but we're learning a great deal about what's making our students tick. What are we offering that gets them here, and what are we not offering? And I think that there are definitely some common themes that we have already developed. Now it's time to sit at the table and determine what we have the ability to do with that, right? And I think there are some steps we can take. Requires investment. Requires, and investing in this. Thank you for investing in this position. I mean, I have a unique ability to, roll out of the building, right? To track these kids down, to sit with families, where others don't. I mean, it's just not feasible based on their responsibilities. So I appreciate it.
I don't know how last thing I promise. I don't know how we're funding it, but there's a lot of this work that becomes from school now. It's I believe anywhere from 3 to 10% of our gross domestic product are Black and brown students that don't graduate.
For
and
sure.
they
That's our-
contribute to our lack of productivity as the
Absolutely.
United States. So there are tons of various community and grant processes to help have a formidable process of how we fund this work moving forward. So definitely any way that I can help connect
sure.
us to the medical sphere of this, I know we're all super excited for the work that you're doing, so I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Ms. Boyer, you're one of the most humble people I know, and I know you're not going to stand there and brag on yourself, so I'm going to brag on you for a moment.
Okay.
You're the right person for this position.
Thank
You have approached it with an honesty and a curiosity that is incredibly helpful for our students. It's a great reminder for us all that when we say 100%, we mean 100%, and we do not give up on kids, ever. And this is a great example of this. It helps us to our goals, but it is life-changing for those students that we've been able to reach out to, and it's going to be life-changing for their families. I do think it's important to note, Dr. Meehl said something about funding. This is not an added position. This is not something we added to. This really is a remarkable display of innovative leadership at every level, especially at the high school, because they took a AP from their existing AP structure and moved them into this position. which really was a risk a little bit because it put an added load, but the leadership there at the high school and the administrators have all stepped in part of this mission and to help Rebecca do her job. And Rebecca, what you and Norma are doing is just incredible, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the long-range planning update, Mr. Bushyhead.
Kind of like you getting to follow Rebecca Peterson in it. Yeah. So President Reyes, Dr. Federline, members of the board, just want to give you a report on the Long Range Planning Committee. The committee itself is made up of representatives from all of your board zones and UCTA and USPA representatives and several district leaders along with the community members, and then of course 2 of you are on the committee. So over the past 11 years, we have gone from 16,000 students to around 14,500. And so the Long Range Planning Committee began to meet to discuss what does the decline in enrollment mean for us. Is it something that we need to look at and consider and address at this time? Knowing that any conversations about enrollment and facilities is very sensitive and complex. The Long Range Planning Committee, I have to applaud them, and I'll say that several times because I'm very impressed with the group that you all have nominated forward. But they approached it with care, understanding that any decisions we make are going to have long-term effects, not only on the individual schools, but also on the students and even families and neighborhoods. So our discussions focused really on the question, do we act now? Right? The numbers lend themselves for us to consider whether or not we're using our resources correctly. This is really an issue of being good stewards and whether or not we're managing our schools and serving our community the best we can. So we looked at a lot of things. One of the questions was whether or not we close a school. Looking at the numbers and the decline in enrollment, and so we reviewed those. We looked at the data over the last 11 years at all the school sites. We even pulled up the data on how many kids actually live within the boundaries of the elementary school that they attend, right? That number was actually lower in some areas where so many of the students that were at a particular school were either transferred in, were there, maybe their parents worked there, or there were programs there, or that was a school that they transferred in. We looked at potential savings of closing a school, an elementary school, and what that would look like. We even reviewed what it would look like in terms of redistricting. So these meetings were kind of long. I'm kind of looking at you guys because you were there. We can't really go over everything. We looked at utility savings, what the staff savings would be, and even looked at the capital improvements that we have scheduled for specific sites in the district. And really after reviewing the data and a lot of conversation, and then a final vote at our last meeting, the group agreed that it's best to take more time before making the decision to close a school. In some ways, hoping a little bit for a miracle that our enrollment does come up. We have a couple neighborhoods that are in the planning phases. One that's actually started, got the sewer in and streets going in that would help us. We also have to consider, we have elementary schools that have under 400 kids in it, and they're not in the areas where our population is the highest, and so we looked at the locations of where kids are. So we're going to continue to review enrollment trends, gather more input from families and staff. We think that's going to be very important to hear more about that. Really an important topic for future discussion would be the possible use of a school. We know that just closing a school, but for the money aspect, also, we have to consider what would we do with that building. And so that was also discussed about the possibilities. The committee agreed before any recommendations are made, it's important that we listen carefully to our families and our staff and our community, and even our community partners, right? And so we plan to provide additional opportunities for feedback in the future. And again, if the enrollment numbers don't increase, this is a conversation we're going to continue to have with long-range planning. So our goal is really to ensure that it's as well informed as possible. And as I mentioned, this isn't a fun topic, right? I mean, we came to the meeting and I kind of told them, why we're there and why we had to have this discussion. And there really is no good options on the table. But we are trying to be good stewards of the district's resources and make sure that we're funneling those resources as efficiently as possible. I can't brag enough about the committee. Again, the number of them that I spoke to that are like, I've been thinking about this all week, I couldn't sleep, and they were committed to making the best decision possible for the district. They also know that, we just can't pretend that this isn't an issue that's not going to come up. And so I know that all of them really took the discussions to heart and invested their time and their thoughts on it. You could tell it when in the meetings, and again, some of you all were on the committee, so you know that we would go back and forth on different topics and different discussions in terms of how we felt about it. So can't say a big enough thank you for all of them, all of the committee members that agreed to be on there, and also to you guys for, again, being involved in the process. I think the committee is better because of the input you guys have put in and sent folks that you knew, right? And so that's been very, very helpful because they're a great group of very caring and thoughtful people that have the interest of the district as a whole behind all their decisions. Our next meeting scheduled for January 8th, and we'll start discussing other items. We did talk about redistricting. That's been one of the questions. It really doesn't make a lot of sense right now because we would just be moving kids farther away from where they're at now to try to fill up some of the schools that aren't as close. And didn't feel like that was a good option right now. So we do not, to be clear if I've been confusing, there is no recommendation to close the school for the fall of 26 or to redistrict for the fall of 26, but we will continue to examine this issue and look at different options for this problem, right? This dilemma, as we called it. So questions you guys may have, you all?
Man, two gut punches. With this particular site that is of interest, I don't know if it's multiple sites or one site or...
We looked at several. We ended up, I'll just say there's some obvious sites that we wouldn't consider. Partly, Ochoa is pretty obvious, I think, but we look at Bovers Elementary, for example. That's a neighborhood school. It's right there. And so closing schools in the north were really taken off the table because we just have to bus those kids. We already bus a large number of kids from around the 41st and Garnett area to the south. And so we looked at those different schools. We got down to 6, and then we ended up at the end, I think, discussing 3 that were possibilities, and all of them had advantages that made them a better choice than the other 2, and advantage is not the right word, and then, others would have different ones. And so that's part of what we want to do. Again, the use of the building is a big topic. What would we do with the building if we did close it? Because you just don't want to let it sit idle and empty. And so the market, again, if we got down the road farther, would we ever consider selling one? And those are difficult conversations to have because I mentioned Bovers Elementary, right? that's a school that I don't think we can afford to ever close, but it's also a school that we need to rebuild, right? And so how we to have that discussion too. So
Two follow-up questions. The first one, is it a particular age demographic that is more or less populated in the school from K through 5th?
no, it's pretty consistent. Our numbers at the lower levels have gotten smaller with time. If the trend continues, we're going to see it at the secondary levels, right? This was a year in which our enrollment, we lost students at the secondary levels, whereas in the past several years, it's really been at the elementary. And so that was a shift that was, again, a little alarming. We can go through it. I mean, it's a national issue, right? I get a few trade magazines even that are about maintenance and operations and construction, and they talk about student enrollment in those and what are some of the causes and what they're seeing across the country. And so it's not something that's unique to us, but it is, again, we want to make sure that we don't wait too long to respond to it, but we also don't want to do something too quick in terms of the community not having enough input and not being able to have some say on at least a voice on what they feel like is the best option, because it's not popular, right? I mean, it's not a popular conversation. So
The second question in regards to, I mean, it sounds like it wasn't too long ago that for specific buildings, overcrowding was the issue, and then with reading and math scores. So now we're in the opposite direction. Have we seen any fluctuation in reading and math scores with smaller class sizes?
I have not gotten into that. Yeah. So that was not part of our discussion. I mean, we did talk about comparability, didn't we? And the impact of that on having smaller schools that are not Title I. Because it does play a role, right, in how we make some of these decisions in terms of that. I mean, that's one of the difficulties, and I'm looking at Sandy, Miss Calvin, because when you have a school that only has 35 first graders in it, well, you really can't have one class, so you've got to have two. Now they've got a 17 and 18 student count, so there's a benefit to that. We do know, looking at our elementary enrollment numbers, class size numbers this year, that they look as good as I've seen them maybe in my 39-year career, right? Of, that, and again, some of that is a result of we have to not overload those classes, and the math just works out that you ended up with smaller classes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I've been asking, and I haven't got an answer yet. Do we know where the state is at? I know the state is in decline for population. Does anyone know? Anyone in this room know where the state came in at?
I don't know a state number from you because they're still calculating that. They extended the deadline. However, talking to other superintendents, there are a lot of other large districts around the state where their enrollment is down.
That's going to affect your bottom line too, because the state will then have a larger per pupil.
That is correct. It would affect the factor.
And I will say, that was one of the discussions also, was the opportunity cost, right? If you save this money, are there other places you could put it, right? Are there other things that you could invest in? So that's, all right. Any other questions? All right. Again, thank you for a great group of folks to work with, and I know when they get the invite for January 8th, they'll just be very, very excited. So.
Thank you, Ms. Bushyhead. Hearings and correspondence? All right, business agenda. Looks like first reading of proposed board policy revisions. Dr. Federline.
And President Reyes, members of the board, this is our first reading for you and the public for a variety of board policy updates. Some were done due to legislative requirements. Some were done on the recommendation of our staff and our administrators. There'll be several of those available for you all and for the public for the next 30 days until our next board meeting to review. I'd encourage everyone to look them over carefully. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us on cabinet.
Thank you. Next, consider and take action on the school board meeting calendar for 2026. Dr. Federline.
President Reyes, members of the board, this is our traditional school board calendar, second Monday of the month, and all but a couple that we had to change, one for the MLK holiday in January, another for a conference date, but in general, no changes whatsoever, and this one will require a vote.
Second.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Dr. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman? The chair votes yes as well. Thank you. School operations. Consider and take action to accept the bid for the tennis court resurfacing project and award the contract to Magnum Construction, Inc. in the amount of $419,000 from bond funds. Mr. Bushian.
Yes, President Reyes, Board, Dr. Federline, this was on our last bond issue to approve resurfacing the tennis courts, and so we're just asking that you approve this bid selection. We ended up with 4 bidders. Magnum Construction got the low bid, and this will include all the main new courts that we have, and then also the courts at the back near the baseball field. So ask for your approval.
Are these original to the new tennis complex? Have we not done this?
We've done this before. Yeah.
How long does a tennis tournament last?
Well, I think I'm thinking, Joe, if you know the answer, tell me. A lot of times they'll say, depending on play, but 7 or 8 years. And ours get a lot of play. So, well, and we do keep the back courts open for the community to use. So, it gets a lot.
Mr. Moon? Yes. Dr. McNeil?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Thank you.
Chair votes yes as well. Thank you. Finance, consider and take action on reapproval of the General Building and Child Nutrition Fund operational budgets for the 2025-2026 fiscal year as outlined on the statements of revenues, expenditures, and fund balances and as originally approved by the Board of Education on September 8, 2025, and reapproval of the 2025-2026 Estimate of Needs document as approved by the County Excise Board on October 16, 2025. Dr. Williams.
Thank you, President Reyes. Good evening, members of the board. This is a recommendation that the board reapprove the General Building and Child Nutrition Fund budgets for the 25-26 school year. Once we bring those budgets to you in September, along with the estimate of needs for approval, then the law requires that the County Excise Board approve the estimate of needs and that the district hold a public hearing to allow patrons the opportunity to express any opinions on the district's budget. Those having taken place in October, we then bring the budgets back to the board for a reapproval. There are no changes to any of the budgets, so we would ask for your approval.
Second.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Dr. McNeil?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen? Yes. Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. New business? No. Opportunities for comments from audience and board members.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. We were able to have a medical summit out on the Union football field, and just an outpouring of students and seeing their faces light up. Even the ones that were drugged there by some outlying school and kidnapped, by the end of the day, they were smiling from ear to ear. And just really to see like their adult in the crowd, whether it be a teacher or an administrator, this really made all the difference. So I can't thank you guys enough for making this place as special as it is.
Thank you, everyone, for everything and all that you do. We got adjournment, we have a motion.
Second.
Dr. McNeil?
Yes.
Ms. Romerman?
Yes.
Ms. McAdams?
Yes.
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Chair votes yes as well. Thank you all.